All right, I've been waiting for this conversation for quite a while, and another good one I imagine we're going to have with the Attorney General Kris Mayes. Thanks for coming down.
Thanks for having me, Mike. Good to see you.
So we were debating before you got here this latest lawsuit. Does this get us the landmark 30, or is it 29? So let me just defend my argument first.
Okay.
If we don't even know how many lawsuits there are, aren't there too many?
No, because it's really not about the number, but the quality and the necessity of them, right? So as we've talked about before, every time Trump violates the Constitution or the law, I'm going to sue him. And I would sue a Democratic president, too, if they were violating the law. And I would expect that you would expect me to do that, right? So, but if it had been 30, I would have brought you cupcakes because, we did even numbers.
We decided last time you brought me a cake, which was very, very kind of you. We were hoping for tacos this time.
Tacos.
With candles in the tacos.
Next time.
Next
Okay.
time.
Yeah.
So, and we actually were going to get you a cake this time. And neither one of us ponied up the money to do it, so I apologize.
That's okay.
But I want to talk about this Department of Education. So is this, because I'm not familiar, I am familiar with the program. I'm not familiar with what the White House is doing here. Are they ending a program, or are they going to stop what was promised to people?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm asking?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's mostly the latter, but what they're doing is they're essentially putting what we consider to be unlawful conditions on the public service loan forgiveness program. So, if you go into certain fields, you get loan forgiveness on your student loans. So law enforcement, for instance, education. We need more teachers. We need more police officers. Health care often. And so they're putting these restrictions on it based on what I think is sort of speech-related restrictions, which is kind of crazy, and we think is also unlawful. So they promulgated a new rule, they created a new rule, and so we're suing on that.
So this is the difficulty I have, and this is where you and I disagree on some of these, is that a lot of it is that you have every right to not like what the president's doing, but the president won the election. The Republicans control it all right now. They don't have the 60 they need, which is why we're shut down. So how much this appears to be disagreements in policy, not in law.
Well, I mean, I would just disagree about that. I think this is about the law. It's about, whether a president can essentially overturn Congress's prior decisions. So that's where I feel like we should be agreeing, actually, because I know you're a constitutionalist.
I am.
And I know that you believe in the separation of powers, and that's what almost all of these cases are about. Public service loan forgiveness programs, I think, are also incredibly important to Arizonans. Many Arizonans rely on this.
And
we want to encourage people to go into law enforcement.
And
right?
I would say to you, I agree with you in principle that this is a valuable program. So I would say, I'll give you an example. The president and what he's doing with Argentina and the beef industry, I think is a mistake. We brought on the cattle growers who have historically been huge supporters of this president, are saying it's not addressing our problem of cost. And if you drive down the cost of beef and we're getting less money per pound, and you're not lowering our costs, it's actually hurting us. I agree with them in that. So I would say to you in this, I may agree that this is a valuable program that should stay, and given the opportunity, would say we should keep this.
Yeah.
But I don't know that it's something that's any of the business of our Attorney General to sue, and that's the part I need you to explain to me.
So, and I totally understand if you don't support this particular lawsuit, but what I would ask you to think about is, number one, the two things. Number one, when you add up the value of all of the lawsuits that I've brought, the 29, we have saved Arizona $1.5 billion, including for law enforcement in our state, which I know you support. If I hadn't been the Attorney General, for instance, both of my opponents in my reelection campaign have said that they would drop all of the lawsuits that I've brought, which means we lose $1.5 billion. That's money for Meals on Wheels, Head Start, AmeriCorps, HIDA, which is the high-impact drug trafficking areas. You know about that. That's how we fight the Mexican drug cartels, Mike. And so I brought those lawsuits to save that money. The Republican states are not bringing these lawsuits, but I am, because it's about the law and the Constitution. And second thing, Mike, can I just say this real quick? I have not brought all the lawsuits. So there are Democratic AGs who brought I think 20 more lawsuits that I have foregone. So we're not bringing all that we can.
So here's the pushback on both of those. One is, what are the real costs to Arizona to be involved in these lawsuits? That's one. And the other one is, if you were not involved in these lawsuits were still going to proceed, like the 20 you say you haven't been involved in. So if the money that you saved is really been saved, it would have anyway.
No, absolutely. Here's why you're wrong.
Okay.
Because the judges are now basically saying that the lawsuit decisions only cover the plaintiff states. So the states that are getting screwed are the ones with Republican AGs. They don't get the relief. And so it's incredibly important. I would say to your viewers, if you care about all these issues, you need me as your AG, because if I don't bring these lawsuits, Arizona won't be covered. And we could go down the line on that.
So that was my next question: is how many of those does that apply to? How many of you actually
all
won?
Of them.
How many of them have you won and they're decided and it's over?
80%.
80%
of the
are
lawsuits
fully decided.
Well, they're not fully decided, but we won a TRO or a preliminary injunction. And Mike, what is often happening is Trump is basically slinking away. He's kind of like just dropping the case and not appealing. Now, that's not the case with stuff that he seems to really care about, like tariffs. He seems to really, really want tariffs, which are taxes, on the American people. And so he will take that all the way to the Supreme Court. Same with like birthright citizenship. But 80% of the time, we're winning a PI or a temporary restraining order, and we're saving Arizonans literally billions of dollars.
So what ends up happening, and this is the politics of it that drives me crazy, and maybe it does you too. So any example of a lawsuit where you get a temporary restraining order on something, it goes to the Supreme Court decides for the White House, and then the accusation is this is a conservative court that's just a rubber stamp for the president. So the legal process works when people get their way. I'm not saying you, but it doesn't work when it goes the opposite direction.
No, I think you have a fair point there, which is like that everything has become so politicized, that we put a political lens on everything. And I wish we did. I wish we weren't in that place. And we need to, this is why I love coming on your show. Because, you and I have slightly different political views on some things, but actually we probably agree on more than we disagree
And
on.
I think that's the general public, that we have an agreement in principle on many things, but sometimes the mechanism or the way we get to where we need to go is completely different.
Yeah, I know.
And see, that's where this is my difficulty, is I cannot see a president violating the Constitution 30 times or 50 times, as you say, that it just seems overtly political, and it's using the courts when you didn't win, not you, but when they didn't win the election.
Here's what I would ask you to consider. I know it seems like a lot, but it is a lot. This is a president, and I know that he won the state of Arizona, but he's also underwater now in the polling in Arizona, especially among independents. This is a president who violates the Constitution all the time, Mike, and a lot. And I know it seems weird because it is weird, and so I'm going to call him out on it. But if it were a Democratic president, and here's why Republicans should care a lot about these lawsuits, because if we don't stand up to this now under a Republican president, it sets a precedent for a Democratic president to do the exact same thing.
Every president's been sued, and this has happened a lot. The Obamacare stuff, how many times the Obama administration was in court. There were times they won. There were times that they didn't. So this happens often.
Yes.
It's just never happened this often.
I know. I would just ask you to think about the man who's causing it.
But that's the issue, is I don't believe he has violated the Constitution 50 times, 30 times,
well,
20 times.
A federal judge believes federal judges, and these are Reagan-appointed judges, Trump-appointed judges. These are bipartisan judges, Mike, who are saying that 80% of the time he did violate the Constitution. So I know that people are having a hard time seeing that, but think about the fact that it was a Reagan-appointed judge that took 25 minutes to declare the birthright citizenship executive order blatantly unconstitutional. These are Reagan-appointed and Trump-appointed judges.
I want to continue this because this is an excellent point. So if you don't mind, we have one more segment together.
You bet.
So I want to carry on that part of the conversation. So when we went to break, you had brought up the point of the lawsuits and the federal judges that have sided with temporary restraining orders. But you've been a lawyer for a long time. Isn't this the way the process works, where everybody knows that we want to get this in front of the Supreme Court? You may win this time, we go to another court, and then I may win, but eventually we both want it in front of the Supreme Court. So when it comes to these things, birthright citizenship and others, isn't it beneficial to get it to the Supreme Court and get a final decision?
I mean, sure. I would say that you could say that. I mean, as you know, love the fact that we're winning at the district court level, and then Trump is often giving up because that saves money and time. But take the tariffs case. We're going tomorrow. I'm leaving. I'm going to the Supreme Court. We're arguing that case. We've already won, Mike, twice in front of the Court of International Trade, then the appellate court. Now we're going to the Supreme Court. And I think I think we have a great shot at winning against the tariffs and slaying this dragon that is called tariffs, which are taxes on the American people, at the Supreme Court. So sure, I think it is good. Like, let's end it once and for all. Let's have the United States Supreme Court decide whether or not Trump had the right to impose unilaterally these taxes on Americans.
But okay, so we're going to get down a road that we're not here to talk about. But the other part of that argument is we have not seen, and by the way, I'm not a fan of tariffs either.
Yeah.
But
you just talked about beef. I mean, you talk about all the different areas where people are getting hammered.
But we have not seen the massive inflation that was predicted. It certainly is, there's been inflation, but it has not been anywhere near as big as predicted.
Have you been to the grocery store lately, Mike?
All the time.
I mean, me too. And the prices are going up and up and up. I mean, just ask somebody who's living on a fixed income.
But in fairness, then you got to give the Trump administration credit because egg prices have fallen so far.
Okay, but eggs, everything else has gone up.
Okay, not beef.
Look, I mean, talk to a small business owner. Talk to, and we've been doing roundtables with small business owners. They're getting crushed by these tariffs. Many of them are going out of business. I would venture that every day in Arizona, a small business is going out of business because of Trump's tariffs. Tariffs the average tariff is now 17.5%, and 62% of Americans say that prices have gone up on them recently.
So I guess, and this is why I really want to stick to what we started to talk about. But in this argument, what we're having an argument about is policy.
Yeah, no, it's illegal. I mean, Trump did not have the authority under IEPA, the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, to impose tariffs on the people of America. You know who does, Mike? Congress. Congress has the authority. So you cannot allow a president, because what happens when it's a Democratic president? You and I have talked about this before, who comes in and says, I don't like the Second Amendment, so I'm going to eliminate Americans' gun rights. You would be howling about that, and you would be right about that.
I would, and there are plenty of times when there are lawsuits that are legitimate against the White House, even a Republican president. But there are times when we see this happen, and I just don't believe that when it gets to 30, when it gets to 25, it looks like a disagreement in policy more than it does in legal practice.
But what I'm arguing to you is 80% of the time a federal judge is saying that he violated the law. I mean, is it extraordinary and insane and crazy that we have a president that is violating the Constitution this much, that violated IEPA, that violated all of these laws in our Constitution? Yes, it's insane. But what would you have me do? Not fight for the people of Arizona?
Yeah, I think that if there's a lawsuit, if there are lawsuits out there that you may agree with the lawsuit, why is it in the best interest of Arizona in every one of these cases to be involved?
$1.5 billion.
So every one of them we would not have benefited from had you not joined. Every one of them.
Every single last one of them. Arizonans would have been harmed. And I'm going to campaign on this, Mike. I'm going to go out and I'm going to tell people that we would have lost $1.5 billion if my Republican opponents had been in this office. And I'm going to talk about the fact that they would have allowed the Mexican drug cartels to have their way with us because Trump wanted to defund HIDTA. That's not okay. And if this was a Democratic president that wanted to defund HIDTA and our ability to tackle the Mexican drug cartels, you would be going crazy about it just like I am.
Yeah, defunding HIDTA it was never, and there are things that I think are policy that I may disagree with.
But it's not policy, it's law.
Okay, but the policy of saying we want to defund that agency, I think, is bad policy.
Yeah, it's both, right?
Okay,
You would agree it's both bad policy. You can be both bad policy and illegal, right?
It could be, but
Yeah.
I don't know that in every instance that it is. And that's why when you and I have these conversations, first of all, I admit I'm at a disadvantage. You're the attorney, I'm not. I'm an observer, and I'm looking at things, and I think this is using the courts in order to stop a policy or to stop policies that I don't like. That's the way it appears to me, and it appears to many people. Every president's been sued, and along the way, the presidents had victory, and then they lose at the Supreme Court level, or vice versa.
But let's take SNAP, for instance. We just won a huge decision on Friday and today against the president's unlawful ending of SNAP benefits in November. That's 900,000 Arizonans that basically Donald Trump wanted to cancel their food.
But that's a mischaracterization.
No.
I could say the same thing about Chuck Schumer, Ruben Gallego, and Mark Kelly because they won't vote 60 votes to open the government.
Who controls the government right now, Mike?
It takes
and
60
Donald Trump,
votes.
Who controls the government? They need to go get those votes. All of a sudden have the rules changed?
No political party has ever voted against a clean CR. We've played the Obama cuts. We've played the Pelosi cuts. You don't hold the government hostage in order to forward your own political agenda. And they all admit that it's leverage.
Well, let's go back to the SNAP case. Donald Trump, even Donald Trump in the past had used the contingency funds when there was a shutdown, right? This time he decided to not use the contingency funds as sort of a hammer or a Damocles sword over the heads of the Democratic members of Congress, holding hostage all of those people. Two federal judges, Mike, said he can't do that. He's got to release those money.
And
those are 900,000 Arizonans. A lot of them are Republicans.
And I have less than a minute. But so the Treasury Secretary has said there's a process. They want answers from the court of how they can legally do that. Would you at least concede that there's a legal process that they're asking for clarification on in order to use that money?
Yeah, and in fact, just this morning, so breaking news, the Trump administration filed an affidavit with the court saying we are going to release the SNAP funds, and they're only going to release about half of it. So it looks like Arizonans will get half of their SNAP benefits. That's going to be tough on Thanksgiving dinner. So sorry, we can thank Donald Trump for that. Well, it's true. Like, why should we allow Donald Trump to violate the law? And we're not going to. And even he has conceded, yes, we can use those contingency funds. But you're right. Both sides need to solve this problem. By the way, today, Arizonans are waking up to ACA prices that are skyrocketing, triple whammy.
I'm late. I need a one-word answer. Do I get a promise no more lawsuits?
Absolutely not.
All right, there it is. You heard it here first. We'll be back.
Thanks for watching the Mike Broomhead Show. Tap to watch and listen to the new season of Amazing Arizonans, a KTAR News podcast. You can also click the button in the middle to subscribe.